We are here interviewing the author of Ravishing, Alena Guest. Alena Guest is a personal mentor of mine. She is a thought leader in hypnotherapy, and I have personally been on the receiving end of her work. And at a very dark time in my life, she helped me to reset my mind, my inner critic, all of the things that were really taking me down so that I could live the confident life that I live today as the woman I am today. I have always seen this woman, this goddess, this powerful leader as a queen. I now understand by reading this book what it takes to be a queen. The journey, the authenticity, the truth in this book got me angry, it got me sad, it got me incredibly elated, and by the end of the book, I was free. It was like I went on my own transformational journey. So, Alena, I just want to thank you with all of my heart for being here and for sharing, having the courage to share this incredible story.
I'm honored, of course, to be interviewed by you. We have had our own parallel heroines' journeys over the years.
Yes.
And it's really nice to be connecting in this context.
You have been through so much, right? You went through actual sexual assault, rape, betrayal from your mother, like an incredible deep anorexia for many years, many traumas, and to see who you are today, the bridge into who you are today. I'm really excited to cover today how you went from all of the trauma into actually leaping into this, to a queen, which is very rare. I don't meet many women who are sovereign and powerful. I have a document of images of different women who inspire me 10 years beyond me, 20 years beyond me, 30 years older than me, these different age ranges, to show that we get more beautiful, more powerful, more resilient, that we can be queens. And you are, your image I have on that document, and everyone you're next to is like Meryl Streep and
Oh boy, I'm in good company.
Yes, yeah, they're in good company. Yes. I want to ask you, like, just to begin here, on page 27, you say, often the only place I felt safe was to be gone completely. And that self-destructive impulse almost did me in, that dying to be perfect. Could you say more on that? Because I feel a lot of people could relate to really not wanting to be seen at all.
Yeah, the paradox is that with crippling insecurity, at least the way I was, for a long time, I mean, not just when I was suffering with the worst of anorexia as a very young woman, 11, 12, 13, but this continued, this idea that if I could make myself so flawless, at least superficially so, no one would be able to criticize me, and then I could feel like I was good enough for the world at large. And of course, it's a really false construct, because in the first place, there's no such thing as perfect. and it's working from the wrong direction. You're working from the outside in rather than the inside out. And it took me a long time to get to the place where I had the right therapy, which allowed me to love myself and find out that I was good enough and worthy enough, certainly from within. And then I was able to be far more free, far more true, to true up and be myself and know that that was just fine, like everybody else, not better than, not lesser than, but enough. It was huge.
When you look back at all of the struggles that you went through, from the vantage point that you're at right now, how do you feel about those struggles?
They were certainly very painful. Some of the things were grotesque and repugnant, because some of the details of some of the things that I endured. But I have the advantage now of looking back at this arc of my life and all the things I went through, and I realize that I really was on a heroine's journey. That in order to develop the character I have now, and particularly, I have to say, to be able to have the bandwidth that I have as a therapist and the level of compassion and knowledge I have, so that I can really help my clients who have been through their own labors, their own traumas. It really has, I'm sure, helped me to be a better therapist and probably even a better partner and a better friend. I hope that that's true. I was fortunate enough to have the resilience to be who I am today and to be able to use what was done to me.
Wow.
Now in my life.
Wow. Okay. So using what was done to you, because the Me Too movement is massive, right? And there's, thank God, so much of that is coming to the light now. So I love what you're saying, though, that you've used what was done to you in order to acquire the quality or the attribute of resilience. So, and that all of that actually prepared you for the work you're doing today and the magnitude in which you're able to show up and help others. So those of you watching, please take this in. What would you say to someone who's down on their knees and they don't see a way through, and they're looking at their current circumstances as devastation, and they might as well die or give up, or they're irreparable, they'll never meet their potential because they've been hurt or damaged in some way or traumatized? What would you say to that person?
Well, what I often do with people who are in that state is that I, of course, with the kind of work I do, I actually have them go into a deep state so that they can access their own wisdom. Now, I certainly do that. And in that state, they are often able to override what's been holding them back. And I also am able to have them move forward to see a vision of their spiritually evolved selves. So that, or in the case of one person, her spiritually evolved self, and all of the attributes that woman has. I want to stop and tell you something. This is a segue. It's not exactly precisely answering your question, but it also relates to something you said earlier, which is that I'm a painter also, and I painted a painting 20 years ago, which I called Constellation, and it had an 11-year-old girl and a 23-year-old girl and a 37-year-old woman and a 70-year-old woman. Okay.
And by the way, people will not believe that you're 70. You are.
So and my idea of this painting, it was all the same woman, and she was equally radiant, equally fine, enough, beautiful, if you will, at all of these stages. Now I'm saying this because I wasn't there yet. When I made that painting, I hadn't done all the therapy necessary to get to the point of being good enough, as I was telling you a little while ago. But my subconscious that I accessed while I was painting actually knew this already.
Which is exactly what you
So
have.
this is what I'm saying about when I work with people and I can access the wisdom that they have inside. They already know somewhere within that they are just fine, intrinsically fine, just the way they are. And so it took me a while to catch up with my with my painting, you see.
I love that language. Intrinsically fine, just the way you are. Intrinsically fine, just the way you are. There's so many young women that are attracted to this channel or to this work, and I hear this so many times, that they are stuck in doubt or in the inner critic, and they're trying to better themselves physically, like they're so committed to the way they look, and really sourcing their power and confidence off of their external appearances. What would you say about that? Because I know that you were totally pigeonholed for such a long time in your life as the beautiful bombshell model, Hollywood actress, you know, the whole thing. And I love in your book how you basically restarted your life. You found the love of your life in your 40s. Which is a whole other incredible story, which is in this. You guys get this book. It is unbelievable. Ravishing. It is such a love story on top of it all. And also at 58 is when you discovered a new career path, your meaningful, soulful career path. So I just want to share this because there are a lot of people who, number one, say it's too late. I can't, it's too late. And then there are this other group of people who are younger and they're still putting a lot of emphasis solely. I'm all about beauty and taking care of ourselves, but solely putting the emphasis on the external. What would you say to yourself at that age, or to a woman who believes that her value is based on her looks?
Well, we all know what it is to just be around somebody who is alive, who is excited by life, who is up to things, who's kind of got clean energy, if you will, and basically is interested in you. You know, somebody who wants to hear your story and wants to listen and look at you and be around you. Those qualities, humanly, we respond to those really more than we do about, you know, if somebody's skin is perfect or their hair looks just right, or what they're wearing. I mean, we notice those things. But, you know, the thing that really touches us, the thing that makes us really connect and feel a heart connection to somebody, are the things that I just mentioned. You know, authentically connecting, recognizing the commonness, the humanness, what we have that's more alike than different. And so, I mean, I have to be frank here and say, I suppose it's just because I love beauty in everything. Yeah. You know that?
As an artist.
So, I mean, as an artist, I love my environment to look a certain way. I do love fashion. I'm a painter. And so, you know, I care about taking good care of myself and, you know, all the things that go along with that. And certainly trying to be as youthful and vibrant for my age within reason, you know, because one of the reasons that I moved out of LA was, you probably weren't going to ask this, but one of the reasons I moved out of LA was that I thought, you know, in this fishbowl, women, and not just women, but women feel the need to have plastic surgery in order to sort of look young enough and keep up and all of that. And I thought, you know, if I keep swimming here, I'm probably going to succumb to that. And I didn't want that to happen. So so I left so that I could try to find a place that would value who I am for the substance of me inside rather than who I am as much on the outside, while still carrying that within reason.
Yes, and that was such a poignant part in your book where your agent, basically, you were in your 20s, I believe, or 20s, and he wanted you to get two plastic things of like plastic surgery, and you had the schedule, like you had the appointments booked, and then you questioned it and you changed. You basically, that was the beginning, I feel, of a real breakthrough of you choosing from your own navigation system, which was really powerful. And mind you, you were married to an assassin and had to choose at some point through divine intervention also, like that when you met Marta in the book, in your book, which blew my mind, and I want to talk about that a little bit, having mentors, having guidance. But when you had the courage to leave that marriage after 10 years, right? What would you say to a woman who is in a situation where she's in some way not sovereign? She's not financially sovereign, she's dependent, or she's in an abusive marriage, and there's nothing wrong with being financially dependent, but I mean for somebody who really yearns, like they feel their potential brewing and they want to follow their calling, but they're just holding themselves back to please their partner. Or it could be more extreme where they're being abused, or they're just stuck in a situation where they are afraid to leap. Yeah. What would you say to that person who knows they have to take a courageous leap, but they're too scared to, whether it's an abusive situation or just a disempowering one?
Yeah, I just want to speak to my own experience that in my case, even though there was a threat, that if I left, I would risk not living, that my life would end because I was threatened. But I thought when I had one of these clear moments, where I was able to really touch inside, that I wasn't living as it was, that I wasn't able to be free at all or make my own choices, and that it was a question of either having a living death or just making this huge leap of faith. And I would say that at a lot of crucial moments in my life, that's what I had to do. Yeah, was make a leap of faith. When you talked about the surgeries and my decision to cancel those appointments and not have the plastic surgery, it was really, again, connecting to the true north inside me that was a recognition that God made me this way. That has to be okay. And I cannot give that to someone else to alter. God made me this way. So again, that was still years before I really realized on a daily basis, every moment, that I'm fine just the way I am. But I had a moment of clarity, a moment where I knew it, at least enough and strongly enough that I didn't move forward with. And then again, also, when it was a question of, do I stay in this really crushing marriage where I was almost catatonic? I mean, I was just reduced. I know this is hard for you to believe, knowing me as you do now, but I had lost my light. I'd lost my light. And so I had to make a leap of faith in order to see if I could grow that light again. And of course, I was able to do that. I would encourage anyone to do that, to just, because, I have to say this, working with clients all these years, that is one of the things that really impresses and inspires me, is the resiliency of the human spirit that I see in my clients.
Absolutely.
Don't ever underestimate that, because people are remarkable. You can't tell, looking at most people walking around, or even who you think you know, what they've endured and how well they've done despite what's been done.
Imagine if we walked around through that with that lens, looking at the power in people.
Yeah.
And I just want to say there was a lot at risk in both of those situations for you. Your career, your financial sustenance, all of that with the not getting the plastic surgeries. You basically left a career to follow your true north. And then the marriage, which was also, when you talk about you were reduced and just crushed, I just want to say, like on page 152 in your book, when you meet Marta, who becomes your mentor, and she says to you at a wedding, "You are a lovely bird. It's a pity your wings are useless." And she was a stranger at the time, right, sitting next to you, and you were just like, who, what? To have that, you're a lovely bird, it's a pity your wings are useless. I feel like so many people can relate to that, of like knowing that we have this potential, but we're like, our wings are clipped or they're just glued to our sides. And how important was she in your life? How important was it? Because you end up going to work with her and you end up going through this whole transformation. You leave your marriage with her support, or you get through that a lot easier with her support. How important is it to have a mentor, to actually be a queen, to transform and to live one's full potential?
Well, I do credit her a lot with a certain quantum movement from where I was, because certainly a year after I'd worked with Marta, I had gotten wind under my wings, and I'd gotten a lot of my light back. She always stressed that it was important not to live in a mediocre way, to live brilliantly, to push oneself 110%. And she saw something in me that, I certainly most of the time wasn't seeing those days. And in my inner circle and in the home I was living in, that wasn't reflected back to me, hadn't been. And so it was really important to have that mirrored, to have somebody see this potential and what was in there that was dormant. And so I do credit her very much with this beautiful work that we did over the course of a year. And naturally, I think mentors are very important. It's interesting sometimes how they come to you, and it's important to recognize them at the moment.
Beautiful. Yeah, even this video, some people right now are watching this interview and relating to you so deeply, and that's a clue. That's if somebody's moved when they're reading your book, reading your story, that's a clue that you found your mentor. Maybe you bump into someone at a wedding like you did, and you just have this kind of light bulb moment with them. She says to you, "What the work I do takes time, but what you need most is a strong desire to change and a determination to follow it up with action." And that's been your life. You did not settle for mediocrity. Everyone was trying to pigeonhole you into surface living, and you were going for depth. You knew you needed more. You knew that there was more, even though it wasn't in plain sight, and you just kept moving forward in spite of countless obstacles, betrayals from some of your closest family members. I mean, it just goes on and on and on. And it was really incredibly beautiful when Marta, at the end of the story, and I'm not giving anything away here, but it was really just so beautifully said. She says, "The sorrows of your life," when she was talking to you at the end of your work together, "the sorrows of your life have not made you bitter or vengeful. You are very clean inside." And I was like, that is Alena. And that, through reading your book, it's just, how would you suggest to somebody that even instead of becoming vengeful, spiteful, judgmental, critical of themselves and others, how does one remain clean inside through the toxicity that we sometimes face in the world?
Well, my first response is that then that's giving the power of those situations and those people to soil you, to change you in a way that is not going to ultimately serve you and others in the long run. And so you want to hold on to your own power and run clean energy, you know.
Yeah, and that's the depth of your...
If you hold on to resentments and you don't get to a point where you can at least accept, if not forgive, what others have done, then you're still stuck and you're still giving them the power to do that, rather than taking that power back and being able to move forward with, like I say, the power of that clean energy. Does that make sense to you?
It makes absolute perfect sense. And I'll say that's the work that we did together years back. It's a decade now, which is crazy. It's exactly a decade. You took me back to who I was prior to the abrasions or the ruptures or the wounding. And you are offering a gift to the audience, which is really exciting for them to experience one of your 15-minute meditations where you're guided back to that original self, and we'll get to that in a moment. I just have one more question before we complete. I have 30,000 more questions, but I'm going to leave it to everyone to buy this book. Go to alenaguest.com and buy this book. It is, I read it, I could not put it down. Look at this. Like it's literally soiled with notes, and it just, I can't even describe how economical you are with your words. You get through to the most, I could feel every bit of your journey. It wasn't up here. I was on the journey with you. I went through a transformation reading this book, and somehow you do it in so few words. I'm like, masterful. I have writing questions as an author. I'm so curious, like, what would you say to someone about, okay, so I have two more questions. It's coming up. Yeah. So for those creative ones out there, what would you say to someone who has a memoir in them, but they are terrified to tell the truth?
Oh, okay. I'm happy you asked this question. I have been writing, of course, in a journal and doing little bits and pieces of this book. I think you know this, for 10 years. And I went to a seminar where we were led into a trance state. And the question was asked, while I was in this relaxed state, if you found that you only had a very short time to live, what is the one thing that has not been done yet, that has to be completed before you die? And it broke me open, and I started crying, and I realized I have to tell my story. And that's when I started writing like my life depended on it. Okay? And so that's been, well, pretty much the last 3 years of my life, because it took the better part of that time to write the book and then get an agent and then get it published, of course. So, so I mean, that's what I would say. If you have a compelling story inside, for heaven's sakes, don't wait. For heaven's sakes, don't wait and say, oh, well, I'll do that. Because you might remember this from the book, that my mother, who was so healthy at 59, thought she had all the time in the world to write her great American novel. And then she got this terrible terminal diagnosis and didn't have time to do that. There's a little tiny piece of this, which is, you know, perhaps a redemption of her unlived life. But mostly it's me. Mostly it's that I had to tell this story, and with everything in me, I hope that it helps inspire and heal others. That would mean the most to me, if that turns out to be the case.
So I have one more question. If you could go back in time as the mother of your younger self, what would you want her to know to help her move through the challenges and the obstacles, to soften her heart a bit through it?
I would want her to know that she is lovable, she's beautiful, inside and out, and that everything's going to turn out all right, no matter how it may seem at times, that she will be able to ride the rapids, however, whatever class of white water they are, and be able to be triumphant at the, at the end.
Whew. Thank you so much, Alena, for, well, first of all, prior to writing this book, for being a queen. You're such a role model, and to have that North Star to see what's possible. I know for me to witness you on your journey, and I have to say, everybody, to witness you during the process of writing this book, to even evolve even more and expand even more, and to be even more sovereign and even more you and even more expressive and even more free, is so inspiring to me, because what I realize in your presence is that it never ends. You are demonstration that you can continue to blossom eternally, like a eternal springtime. And this book is a perfect, beautiful guide, but in the form of a story, so you won't put it down. I promise you, when you buy this, you will not put it down. From page 1, I was like, oh my God. I mean, you went there immediately with some of the most riveting moments in your life, and this will change you. It definitely changed me. So if you guys want to join the conversation and read this book, go to alenaguest.com. And then Alena is giving a beautiful gift. If you scroll down to the bottom of the homepage, you'll see join the newsletter. And if you could tell them, I know you have a creativity meditation, a 15-minute meditation for any of you who are struggling with your inner critic or perfectionism or any of that. This is definitely something you're going to want to download and have on repeat daily. So how would you explain this gift?
Well, I don't want to give too much of it away, but just to say that it is a guided meditation. So it's very useful because it is just going to allow you to really, really, really relax, and go on a little journey for 15 minutes exactly, and that it will reintroduce you to that little one inside you who is just bursting with ideas and creativity and the need to express, and then you'll be able to have that as a resource. Because what I know is that, it's so human for all of us to have that niggling little doubting Thomas up there, the inner critic that gets in the way of our being able to just let that beautiful, creative inner resource of ours, to let it be out and be free and give our unique gifts to the world. Because my belief, having worked with people now for so many years, thousands of clients, is that everyone has a vein of gold. Everyone has a vein of gold. And it's just up to us to tap into that unique vein so that we could then provide that gift to the world. Because I believe we have an obligation to share our gifts with the world. And what I really hope, and I thank you so much for, is that in its way, this book will serve that purpose.
It already has, and it will continue to. And I thank you so much. So you guys go to alenaguest.com, buy this book, download the free meditation, plug it into your iPhone, just see what happens when you tap into it for 5 days in a row, for example. Notice what shifts, really resetting prior to all the things that we learned, right? The original mind to that vein of gold and access, tap into the power that is you. Thank you so much, you guys. Enjoy this book. And what is one nugget of wisdom you've taken away from this today? Feel free to write it in the comments or just write it in your journal and take it into your life. Take action on it, as we've discovered today. Taking action creates transformation as long as we act on what we're discovering. So may God, this amazing book touch everyone who reads it. And thank you so much for inspiring me and all of us to be queens and kings in our own lives.